She is a media mogul. If you ask her what her title is, she brings structure to chaos. She is the ultimate problem solver in the media business, and she has been producing television for more than 2 decades. And she's going to tell her story. Odele Hawkins joins me on the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio, on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. This is where we get to learn about the personality of Odele. We get to learn about her drive. We get to learn about her philanthropy. We get the full picture here. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Odele, as I welcome you in here, one of the things I know about you and your career is it is defined by you over and over again looking out for others. So as I start out this conversation, how do you look out for yourself?
Whoa, that's a very good question. And typically that comes last, right?
Yeah.
Only recently that I've learned that kind of needs to come first. I am an enormous tennis fan, love to watch, love to play. And it's a great way to get out some aggression. So I like to play tennis, like to wail on the ball, move around the court. And that's really, that's probably the best way that I take care of myself. I also am trying to spend time with my kids. They're growing up, and I've got one in college and one about to leave high school. And so spending time with them is really, really important because it goes so fast. And they're young women. They're young women.
How much of them do you see in yourself?
A lot. Both good and bad. They do some things so annoying, and I'm like, oh, you came by that honestly. They both have a lot of me in separate ways, in different ways, and they both have a lot of their father. It's just an amazing thing to watch because I grew up as an only child, so having two kids it's fascinating to kind of analyze. Oh, that behavior is from this, and oh yeah, because when I told you that, you remembered it. Like, kids do not forget what you tell them. Kids are the best way of keeping you honest. And so I watch them care about people. I watch them have a lot of compassion, and I watch them not be judgmental. They definitely get that from me. They really do allow someone to come to them with the content of their character and go from there.
In a lot of ways, Odele, I've noticed that you have channeled those motherly instincts into all the time that you found talent. You've given people so many starts. You've elevated careers. You've, as I said in the beginning, and as we've been talking about, you've looked out for others and let out your hand to help and be there for them. How much do you see those motherly instincts sort of coming into the world of finding talent and working with people in the industry?
That's a really interesting question. I do. Well, if we could go back a little bit, I was a lawyer for 6 years, practicing in a firm in Chicago, going to court every day, which was a fantastic experience. And when I was trying to transition into production, I needed help. I needed somebody to give me a break, and I was older than everybody. And people were sort of like, well, what are you trying to do? Like, I'm not quite understanding why you're making this transition. And so what I needed was understanding. And I needed somebody to actually value what I wanted and not kind of pshaw it and think that I was crazy. It's like, I've sort of said, I'm like Red Bull, I give people wings.
Yes.
Because that's what I needed at one point. And so I just needed a chance. And once I got the chance, I had to prove myself, and I did so. And that's all people need, is a chance. If you tell me that you've been working at Safeway for the last 10 years, but you really have a vision about being on air and you have a specific interest in some sport or something, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to give you a chance because that's your dream. Yeah. And I'm very specific with people. Like, I work with Olympians. I work with people who have Super Bowl rings, who won NBA championships. And I always tell them, you've got to work as hard to be on air as you did to get that ring or to get that medal. And once people show that they are willing to do that, then it's my responsibility to support them.
Odele, when you made that crossover from when you were a lawyer and you wanted to get into television, ultimately sports. What did that hard work look like where you were able to prove to people that this was not just some fleeting thought that you wanted to change your career path, but you were all in? And how did you show people that early on when you made that change?
Well, because I was willing to go from being an associate at a law firm to being a production coordinator.
Yeah.
You know, I know that, and that's part of the reason that I love television and film, is that you show and prove. And so if you're not good, or if you're difficult to work with, then you don't work. And so I worked hard. I was willing to do things that other people weren't willing to do. I was willing to be there. I was willing to solve problems with immediacy. I was able to anticipate problems, really. And if somebody needed a pink elephant, I was able to provide it. And so I became reliable in that way. I had a reputation for being able to solve problems and to come up with things that people couldn't come up with. And through that, I just kept getting more and more work. So that's how that happened.
And as the work came, your relationships grew, your network was expanding. And somebody, you mentioned this earlier, in terms of you giving wings to others, somebody who gave his wings to you is Leon Schweier. And I want to go to him and what he saw from you early on and how you would begin to describe his impact on your career.
Well, Leon was really the first person to connect my dots, who could see that even though I was a lawyer and I was a wardrobe stylist and I was a production coordinator and I could do business affairs and all of this, that I didn't have to be segmented. I could actually do all of that in a context. I was valuable because I could do all of those things. He was really the first person to see that and gave me the opportunity to do so. And so with that, I helped launch. I was on the launch team of Big 10 Network. And I loved it because it was all hands on deck. It was a matter of what you could contribute, simply. You know, it wasn't necessarily like, I only do this. It was that everybody had to come together to get what needed to be done. And I will forever, forever be grateful for Leon for that. And then Leon also saw that when it was time for me to make a move from Big 10 Network, that coming to the Pac12 Network was a big gift. And he helped me facilitate that, really. So I just will forever be grateful for him to have the vision to not put me in a box. That was the most important thing, is that he didn't have to put me in a box. He could let me do all of the things that I am talented at doing.
He had a vision for you. And then when you made the change to Pac12 Network, you had a vision for the network.
Yeah.
When you look back at what you did, what was that vision and how closely were you able to get to that in retrospect?
I'm so very proud of what we did at Pac12 Networks. So proud. And I will say, I'm going to start with this story. My husband and I, obviously, I'm a huge sports fan. My husband is from Chicago. I'm from Oakland. You know, we'd have some talks about football, let's say. And he could not understand the role of a sideline reporter. And I kept saying to him, this is not just, if your daughter, so we have two daughters.
Sure.
Literally, they've been watching football sitting on your lap since they were born. Are you going to tell me that they are not as equipped as a young man who has not played the sport to cover the sport? It doesn't make sense. Like, if you're going to say that everybody on the broadcast team needs to have played the sport, that's a different story. But if you accept a young man who has not played football, or maybe just played football in high school, not just, but who played football in high school, to be, a credible reporter, then you better damn well expect that these young women can also be credible reporters. And so clearly what I saw was a lack of women and a lack of people of color. And so what I sought to do was to not only find those who were experienced, but also to grow them. So what we started at the Pac12 Network was the Talent Boot Camp, which was a wonderful, wonderful program. And I had just fantastic talent, training other talent, training new talent. And it was wonderful because, again, you've got these kids who graduate from college and they have an interest in being on air, but have no skills, have no experience. And how do you get experience? By getting experience. Yeah. So they needed to have a shot. But, I can't just put anybody on air. So this was a way to actually train kids and see what their talent level was, what kind of work they wanted to put into being on air. And that's what we did. And it was wonderful. And, I will say that there's so many, I guess I can't name all of them, but there's so many wonderful talent who are now just excelling and getting work with ESPN and Fox and have moved beyond the college sports landscape and doing the Olympics. And it's been a real treat. And I have to say that I get texts and emails from talent who say, thank you for giving me a chance. And I appreciate that so very much, so much, because it makes me look good that you're doing well, right? It makes me look good that I found you and you are excelling. So I feel that we were very, very successful at Pac-12 with increasing the numbers of announcers of color and of women, and of putting women in places that they had not been. For example, play-by-play on football, play-by-play on men's basketball. And again, several of those women are now calling NBA games.
When you think about that and what you've done and the amount of people who you help bring up, where does that stack up in terms of the most proud moments of your life?
It's interesting, Bryan, because it goes back to my mothering, right?
Exactly.
And you're kind of the first person who put that in the mix. But I get the most pride out of my children and seeing them succeed and seeing them love what they do and excel at what they do. And so when I have had something to do with the success of an announcer, it makes me very, very proud. It makes me because we worked together to get them to that point. And again, it's a relationship. It's not just I've come here as an announcer and I'm great. It's you have to take some direction. You have to be, I've always said the last thing I would do is be an announcer because it is completely subjective, right? I can say, I don't like your nose. You know what I'm saying? And I'm being real. People can be that pedantic. Yeah. And so you are putting yourself in a situation that is really, really, really difficult. And if you don't have a big ego, then you're going to have a problem. So you've also got to put yourself in a position where you are willing to take some criticism and constructive criticism, of course, and apply it. But, being an announcer, I have to repeat that I have the utmost respect because it is a difficult, difficult job. And I've always said, you've got to make sure that the sports fan who thinks they know more than you, who thinks they can have your job, is engaged, and the sports fan who really doesn't even know the sport, the sports fan who's just being introduced to the sport. You've got to engage both of those segments and make it fascinating to them. This is the most exciting thing you've ever seen.
What do you think? And Odele Hawkins is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. This is the On to Something podcast. What do you think is that healthy balance of an ego for talent? You got to have a little bit, but like you said, not too much. From your experiences, where is that middle ground?
Well, when I say ego, I mean the fortitude to accept criticism, the fortitude to hear no, the fortitude to know that you're going to have to work hard on what you're doing. Because I have said to my talent, as far as I'm concerned, talent is no more important than the producer or the director or the utility. All of those people have to come together. Everybody on the event has to come together to make the show. So yes, you're out there in front. You're the face of the network. You're the face of the event. But your participation is no more important than the other folks that are behind the scenes. And so talent may be treated differently in some contexts because of travel and that kind of thing, and they have to get to different places and whatever else. But I am not a fan of treating talent like they're extraordinarily special just because they're talent. So ego means I'm here, I'm a team player, I'm going to do what I need to do to make this the best broadcast that there's ever been. But I also recognize that I'm part of this, this team, and it's not just me who's out there, doing my thing. So,
along the lines of a team, what was the team, Odele, that helped you fight off breast cancer?
Well, my family, of course. And very wonderful friends. I have, in fact, before I've been talking to you today, I was at lunch with two of my oldest friends. I've been friends with one of them since first grade and the other since third grade. And they really supported me. They went with me to my chemo appointments. They would, bring me food. They would spend time with my kids. It was really, that was very, very important, very important. And then I also really got a lot of support from some of my talent. They would send me notes and do little vignettes on air. And that was really important. It's important to not be forgotten. That's the other thing, it's like I didn't feel like I was battling by myself. So I appreciate all of that.
How have you showed them your gratitude for them in being there for you?
I'm just thankful. I just thank people. I when I get notes, I express my gratitude. I don't have to still be here. It's a gift that I'm still here. And it's been a little bit of a struggle, to kind of get back, particularly in a business and work context, but just thoughts and prayers and notes and, just I'm thinking about you goes so far. It's heartening. And it gives you the strength to keep going.
What does keep going look like for you?
Well, one thing is getting back on the tennis court.
Yes.
That's the first thing, is that I have to get back on the tennis court in the way that I used to be on the tennis court. So I've been working on that. Still got a ways to go. And then the other part of it is really just getting back into the industry. I really want to get back to being a part of making fantastic television, making interesting television, and working with really brilliant, talented people, which is who we work with when we work with play-by-play and analysts. They're brilliant people. So I really want to get back to that, engaging my brain.
Let me leave you with this, Odele, my final question for you.
Okay.
Where do you see brilliance in yourself?
I feel that I have a very, very good sense of what's appropriate, what's meaningful, what will move people, what resonates with people. And I want to tap into that. I really want to give people what's super exciting and inform them about things that they don't know about the sport that they're watching, or the basketball player that they're watching. Give them some perspective beyond how many free throws, but give them some background. Give them how these people got to where they are, because there's a cultural aspect to sport that we all have to tap into, particularly now in our current culture. We really have to understand where these young men and women are coming from, and the amount of time and energy that they put into being elite athletes. And at the same time, understanding that there are young kids who want to be announcers. They want to see themselves in those roles. And we have to figure out a way to better support those kids so that they have the opportunity to do so. So that's what I'd like to do, is just, support people in being their best.
Odele, that was what, if I were to caption this conversation, it's helping others succeed. That's what I want people to realize with you, and what is one of your, if not your biggest motto, your biggest purpose in this life. And I'm really excited for what's next for you. I look forward to hearing about this tennis game and how far you're going to take this. I look forward to it. I'm working on my own tennis game as well. It needs a lot of work, by the way. But Odele Hawkins, this has been an absolute pleasure. You have motivated so many, inspired so many, and the amount of people who are going to see this, it's untold how many more lives you will change. And you will continue to do that with what you do from a professional along with a personal standpoint. Odele, I'm Bryan Fenley. Thank you so much for coming on in the conversation.
This has been super fun. Thanks.